Give me a brief synopsis
Sure, yeah.
of your film, Assholes.
Well, the synopsis that I like to give is that it's about two sober drug addicts who meet in their psychoanalyst waiting room, relapse, fall in love, and become the biggest assholes in New York City. That's 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 how I like to describe the film.
I'd call that pretty much the safe description.
That is the safe description, and it's frankly the one I'm comfortable giving.
I mean, I saw it. I saw a couple of the reviews, and gross is a word I see a lot. To me, it definitely pushes a lot of the boundaries. Have you quite gotten to that level of being controversial yet?
Well, I don't know if that's really for me to decide. It does seem like the movie is sparking some controversy based on what journalists have written about it and continue to write about it. I knew going into the movie that certain elements of the film might be seen as controversial, but I think that, but it might surprise you to say, it might surprise you when I say this. It wasn't being controversial wasn't actually the main goal in making this movie. I wanted to make like an absurdist comedy that was also a love story and that dealt with some issues that felt pertinent to me. But the narrative of the movie being gross and disgusting and a shock comedy, I mean, I actually didn't know what a shock comedy even was until those words were written about assholes. And now I understand that that's like a genre of movie. But and that's kind of the beautiful thing about filmmaking or making any sort of creative work is like, your intention as the filmmaker is maybe even meaningless when weighed against the response of the audience. So the movie has been called a lot of things, and I'm very happy that people are even talking about it and calling it anything. But a lot of the narratives around the movie weren't ones that I was even expecting when I made the movie or when I was writing the script.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was you're offered this film to watch, and it has a very provocative name, and then it becomes this incredibly visual roller coaster at some point.
Good, I'm glad you feel that way. Great.
What struck me was the fact that there was an actual story to it, and there seemed to be a level of logic and thought put into really the entire film.
Well, good. I'm glad you see that. I think not everyone does. I think that there's a lot of very loud elements to this movie that sometimes overshadow the core story, but it really is very heartening to me that you recognize that that this is a movie about characters and a journey that they take, and that it is not just a series of shocking images or perverse jokes. I mean, it is just a series of shocking images and perverse jokes. In fact, it's both. I am always happy when people can see that both of those things exist in the same expression.
Okay, so let's get into it. Where did the idea come from?
Well, that is a really impossible question for me to answer, and it's the one that is asked most frequently of me, because I think the way that I approach my work, I guess now, this could change as I get older, or maybe it will change even, tomorrow or in the next minute, but I feel that I write things from a sort of impulsive and intuitive place, and it isn't until later that I'm even able to understand what it is that I have done. I knew when I was writing the screenplay that it was a love story, and I knew that at a certain point in the writing of the screenplay that I wanted to take the movie in a wildly different direction because I was myself angry with the characters and the world, and the only way I could reconcile finishing it was taking a movie that had like the texture of I would say, a like upper class Manhattan comedy of manners in the vein of Whitfield or Lena Dunham, which was not really the film I wanted to make, even though it maybe is the milieu that I know the most as a person. So the only way I could reconcile continuing this screenplay was by giving it a B movie treatment and making it into like an underground extreme piece. And so that was sort of the balance of ideas when I was writing. And obviously, then when you're making the movie and actors are involved in locations, it sort of becomes like an amalgam of the ideas you had writing and the ideas of the actors and your other collaborators, and hopefully it becomes something that's like greater than the sum of your ideas.
So it sounds like not only coming up with the script, but now you're dealing with, like you said, the actors and location.
The fun and the joy of filmmaking for me is the collaboration with the other artists on set. I mean, when a film is going well, I think it is because it is a total collaboration, and as a director, you go in with a almost dictatorial idea of what you want, but unlike a dictator, you have to be fluid. So it's this fascinating paradoxical balance between being a dictator and also being like a mother, like a giving mother, and letting your children just do whatever. Not well. Isn't it funny? Being a mother is not necessarily letting your children do whatever, but it's being open, perhaps, to whatever they might want, and curious about what they want, and knowing when to allow for certain things and when to disallow others. So I think that's really the main joy of filmmaking. So many things come to mind, like Betsy Brown and Jack Dunphy, and my DP's Justin Slyfak, and the makeup artist Ben Gozier, and the production designer Jane G. I mean, all these people I mentioned are true artists. When I watch the film, every one of my favorite moments is not something that I directly. It maybe is based on something that I came up with, but it was a complete reinterpretation by the artist doing it. That's always the most fun, when the artists you work with take the seed of your idea and present you with like a beautiful flowering plant that you just never could have imagined. That's the very core of what makes filmmaking so rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned your cast. One of the things I think really I think saving the film is overstating it, but it's just the fact that they are somewhat likable. As bad as they are in love, and that that they are real people with real problems.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. I mean, to say that it was a paramount concern is almost not even strong enough language. I mean, for me, in making any film, the very first layer of soil needs to be performances that are believable. I mean, without that, truly nothing cool or interesting or fun or surprising can grow. I'm not interested really. I'm interested in taking performance and sort of heightening it, as we do in this movie, but it always needs to come from a place of truth. And yes, the actors that are in this movie are brilliant, and they treated when we were making this movie, we were not thinking that we were making a movie that was really absurd or gross. We just were genuine. I mean, we just wanted. I mean, genuine is It's funny. I feel like it almost feels scary to say the word genuine, because we live in a world that I'm not sure favors the genuine person or expression. But that is what we were going for each day on set, was the truthful moments and real people, even in these heightened, absurd, bizarre, scary, self-destructive situations.
Yeah, I mean, the second half of the film is probably the most absurd, but it somehow you've managed to keep it grounded.
Thank you.
Let's get back to just getting it off the ground. What was it like getting the movie put together creatively? And was there? I mean, I would imagine there's a level of selling you have to do constantly, especially in those beginning stages.
Well, I funded the movie myself, so I didn't have to sell it to anyone. Which I mentioned because I'm not sure this movie would ever got made. I mean, imagine the very first sentence out of my mouth in a pitch meeting to investors. I would imagine it would go something like this: "Hello, I have a movie called Assholes, and it's about people who have an anal fetish. And my sister Betsy, who's my actual sister, is going to play the lead, and my parents are also in it." At that point, I imagine a door getting slammed in my face, or maybe a phone being picked up to call the police or a mental hospital.
So you went to Kickstarter.
I say this to say no one would have given me the money but myself, and I was lucky. I'm lucky that I occasionally get hired in this world of television acting that is very lucrative, and I'm also lucky, or maybe insane, that I don't really even need. I don't want to have a comfortable amount of money in the bank. I would prefer to have a film, and I would be a lot more comfortable financially if I didn't make this film, but spiritually and creatively, I think I would be poor, and that is the knock on wood. I managed to keep myself afloat with acting gigs. But I see this as a great privilege that I was able to fund this movie myself, and I also hope that this movie is something of a critique of privilege. much.
Mm-hmm. So it was all yours, or was there like a Kickstarter or a crowdsourcing?
We at the end we did attract a couple of small investors and also Kickstarter, but the initial funds all came from me. It's important for me to be transparent about that because I don't think that I wouldn't want to mislead the world into thinking that someone gave me money to make this movie. No, and also I think that it's important for filmmakers to sometimes fund their own work, especially their first feature, because all the filmmakers reading this will know that it's the hardest. That's the hardest film to get made and to get funded because you're untested, and even a cheap movie, and this one was by relatively very cheap in the world of films, is still a lot of money. And it's still a big investment.
Okay, well, two more questions. Let's see. Assholes is being released, I guess, New York this week, L.A. On the 13th, and then the video on demand. So you've got some support here. What's the marketing strategy like?
Well, I'm not a genius marketer, myself, and I think that my distributors are really passionate pushing it out there, and I'm really grateful to them. But for me, I see this movie finding its audience just over time. It's the people that love this movie really love it. The people that hate the movie really hate it. And actually, I think both feelings will hopefully conspire to sort of guide this movie to the people that will appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I see this being like a word of mouth film that builds in reputation over time.
Yeah. Like I said, in Orange County, I've got a lot of people I would never admit I saw this film to, but there are certain people.
I imagine that. I bet you wouldn't. There are certain people. Yeah, I want to hear that part.
Yeah, but there are certain people where it's like you've got to see this film, and you just need to sit there and just watch it, and you'll be amazed.
Well, that's music to my ears, man. I really appreciate you saying that. And it's that very recommendation is sort of what I am banking on and hoping for, and also very moved and delighted to hear you say.
Oh, well, thanks. So the last question I have is, what's your advice to filmmakers who kind of want to make that film, especially if it's off the beaten path? And you mentioned a lot about raising your money up front for that first feature.
Well, my advice is to try to find a way to do it no matter what. I'm in a ridiculously lucky and privileged position that I got cast on a television show that paid me enough money to fund the feature. But the amazing thing about the moment we live in is that the needs of film production are becoming cheaper and cheaper. Mm-hmm. I just acted in my friend's short film, and he shot it on a camera with the body size of a DSLR and 4K footage. So if you have the creativity and the vision, you have to just do whatever you can to make your weird movie. And I think there needs to be more movies that are weird and not commercial entities. Because to me, as a viewer, the most exciting kind of feature film to watch is one that isn't trying to be a product of it really isn't trying to be a commercial product. Whether it is or whether it becomes one or not, that is up to the marketplace. But I love when I see a movie that was made for the sake of art, for lack of a better word. But that's what I mean. Like, those are the movies that really inspire me, and I know inspire others. So I just want people to do whatever they can to make it. I mean, even if that means doing all the Foleys yourself, which I know filmmakers who do, or shooting it all yourself, or taking, Lynch. It took Lynch 5 years to make Eraserhead. It's still possible. It's still possible to make weird, punk rock, DIY movies. And they don't even have to be weird. They can be really normal, as long as they're personal. I just want to see personal movies.
Yeah, I mean, the common thing I hear from filmmakers is the worst thing a creator can do is not create.
Yeah, or listen. Or the worst thing a creator can do is not create. For sure, that's the primary sin, and then the secondary sin is create for someone other than him or herself, or their self.
Especially the first time.
That I see happening a lot, especially the first time. But I mean, I would like to think always, because I find myself deeply allergic to work that feels made for to appeal to the masses or to appeal to some idea of what the marketplace wants.
Or a studio.
I feel like that is very, or a studio, I feel like that is very apparent, and it really pricks the nose like pollen.